How's it going, friends? I'm Carmen, and I'm one of the educators at CuriOdyssey, just here on one of my favorite trails, getting ready to do some backpacking and do some camping and explore around. And today I wanted to share with you an interesting project that helps the planet and will help you have a great camping experience, especially if you're camping out in the rain or in some other place where the weather's kind of interesting. So stay tuned and check it out. So nobody said the road to your own home couldn't be your favorite trail. For right now it is, because I'm here camping on my back porch, and I wanted to share with you today a cool science activity where you can help to repurpose materials that you might have too many of in your own home and help avoid these resources from going into the landfill or otherwise getting out into the environment. So today I'm going to show you how to make a plastic tarp out of bags that you can repurpose and study the science of melting as you fuse them together. So if that sounds like a cool activity to you, or you just need a nice place to sit and stay dry to have your picnic, stay tuned and I'll show you all about it. To make one of these plastic tarps of your own, you'll need to collect a few materials from around your house. The surface we're going to use for this project is an ironing board. So go ahead and find an ironing board, an ironing mat, or some other heat-proof surface. You guessed it, the next thing you'll need is an iron. Since we're using heat and electricity, and we're going to be melting plastic, having a grown-up to help you out and stay safe is an absolute must. The last specialized piece of equipment you'll need is parchment paper. This you can find in your baking aisle. Keep in mind though, don't get this confused with wax paper. Parchment paper has a surface that's non-stick and that also doesn't melt. If you don't have access to parchment paper, some other options that I could think of that may work would be a brown paper grocery bag. Keep in mind that's thicker than this paper here, or maybe you could try aluminum foil. Bear in mind though, aluminum foil does conduct heat a lot more than either of these paper options would. Here's the part you can help with all by yourself. It's a little junk drawer challenge. Take a look around your house, take a look in your drawers, your pantry, your closet. Find all the different types of plastic in your everyday life. Are there snacks that you're going to eat that are packaged in plastic? Are there toys or games that you're going to unwrap that have a covering on the outside? Or with your grocery shopping, are there any produce bags and other types of plastic outsides that come along with the food and goods that you buy? Collect those up and come back and meet me here when you have a bunch of different options. Here are just a few of the different plastics that I found around my house. Make sure that before you gather them for this project, they're clean and dry. You can wipe them out with a damp paper towel or some other type of rag that you have at home. Also make sure you shake out any crumbs that might be lingering at the bottom in the case of food packaging. The only plastics you want to avoid for this project are those that are lined with foil. When we apply heat to those, this is going to be a melting experiment by the way, they could let off some fumes that aren't so safe for you to be around. We're going to take this experiment outside to make sure we're in a well-ventilated area anyway, but before we do that, let's start to notice some of the different properties of the plastics that we found. Take a look at what you have. Are there some plastics that are transparent and you can see right through? Are there other plastics that are completely opaque? What do they sound like? And maybe what do they feel like? See if you can notice some differences in the textures and thicknesses just by feeling them with your hands. What effect do you think the thickness, the texture, the color, and maybe even the size of the plastic will have on how it melts when we use the iron to melt the plastic layers together? From my experience, I know that sometimes when things melt, they can shrink, they can liquefy, they might expand or bubble, and and other times they might just get thicker. So those are some different experiments that we're going to try as we create our fused plastic tarp together. I'm going to gather up all of my materials and head outdoors, which is the best ventilated place for me to do this project. If you have a garage or some other open area where, just in case, there are a few fumes that get let off by your plastic, that you're going to stay completely safe. Use your best judgment, and like I said, check in with a grown-up about what a safe area is going to be for you to try out this project. I'll see you outside. Here we are outside and we have our iron. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in, and then we'll find the right setting to heat up the iron. Make sure the steam setting is off. We don't want any moisture getting into this project. Set it around 3. On my iron, it tells me that 3, about halfway heat, is the rayon and polyester setting. Rayon and polyester actually are clothing items made out of plastic that you can iron. Since the plastic bags are a little more delicate than clothing, this will be sufficient heat to melt them. Lay out the plastic bag you've chosen. Today, I'm going to use this recycling bag, and I'm going to start by trying to fuse the 2 layers of the bag together. You don't have to use a bag. You can use just a sheet of plastic. I'm going to flatten it out to make sure that there aren't any bubbles inside. If I fuse the plastic together and there are bubbles, those bubbles will get trapped. If you're using a bag, start from the bottom. I'm smoothing out the bottom extra well to make sure that there are no air bubbles before I start fusing. Make sure you lay a parchment paper piece on top before you start ironing. Then keep your iron moving. Don't stay in any one place for more than about 15 seconds, otherwise you might liquefy or melt right through and make a hole in the plastic. You can always smooth over an area again, but you can't unmelt it if it goes too far. Press gently and keep that iron moving. Focus on small areas at a time, and you can move the parchment paper around as you melt farther and farther up your plastic project. Keep smoothing over the project until all the layers are fused together. Always wait a few seconds before touching and testing. It cools off pretty quickly, but it can be hot. Notice how thick the plastic got when you melted it together. How has the texture changed? I want this tarp to be a little thicker, so I'm going to fold it in half again. So now there are a total of 4 layers fused together. Once again, I'm going to take my iron and keep moving over all of the surface of the bag. When you notice that all of the areas are starting to get smooth and fused together, you're nearly done. You can just check on the edges to make sure there aren't any gaps in where the plastic is melted together. Well, here we are back inside with our plastic repurposed tarp from our bags, and I wanted to come back to a big picture question. What does this project have to do with our planet Earth and helping to protect our ecosystems? Well, you can recycle some plastics in a factory. Sometimes your city or town might have a place where you can drop them off, or they'll even pick them up from your home. Plastic bags in particular are one of the harder items for factories to recycle. Part of it is what you just saw. Plastic melts really easily, including when plastic bags go into the equipment at recycling plants. They can get jammed into machinery and stick places that can make it harder for the factory to recycle other containers, paper, cans, you name it. Plastic bags are a little bit of a problem from the beginning of their life, coming from oil, all the way to the end of their life when we try to recycle them. We all have choices in our lives that we can make, and this is just one fun choice that I think helps us add another R to our reduce, reuse, recycle. I like to say that R is reimagine. Reimagine your choices. Reimagine what you do with a product when you're done with it. For example, plastic can be unavoidable in certain types of foods. Maybe you have an allergy or a sensitivity where you're forced to buy a certain product in a packaging that's plastic. Well, you can reimagine what you do with that package. For example, creating it into a piece of art and something that's useful for the future is a way of reimagining the problem and inventing a new solution. So I hope all of you are a little bit inspired to notice more about the plastic in your everyday lives and to reimagine how you use it, either by trying this project or your own invention. The Earth and everyone who inhabits it will certainly thank you for your innovation.